So coming off of the end of the previous chapter, we saw Hakari and Kashimo kind of going into the final sequence of their battle. And it wound up with Kashimo creating like this massive explosion. We're seeing the end result of it here, with Kashimo coming out of the water first, and he says, I'm out of cursed energy, but now and then Hakari comes out and just knocks him. But we also see that Hakari is like missing his left arm. And it turns out that Kashimo had suddenly released the cursed energy, whose outflow he'd been suppressing because of the electrical trait of it, because if he didn't, then it would just discharge in the water. But going further, it says before the electricity could travel through the seawater, it turned into thermal energy, resulting in an explosion of steam. So that's like the big massive explosion that we saw. But then Kashimo wonders like why Hakari wasn't completely destroyed by it. And Hakari's like, well, you didn't want me to use my domain again. And that if somehow he were to survive this big, final gambit by Kashimo, then he'd at least try to take off his arm. And that's why we saw Kashimo like grab his left arm in the previous chapter. Because if he did, then he wouldn't be able to make the hand signs, which apparently is a condition to activate the domain. So Hakari sacrificed his left arm to assure that he would survive. And he did this by making a binding vow at the last second, by diverting the cursed energy that was like surrounding his left arm to the rest of his body. So that way it would be reinforced so that he would be able to survive the brunt of the explosion, but at the cost of his left arm, because it wasn't reinforced by cursed energy anymore. Then Kashimo, realizing that he's defeated because, he just expelled all of his cursed energy, it's basically like, go ahead, kill me. And Hakari's like, nah, then your 100 points would disappear. They need that because, we're going to be talking about the rule changes that they need to make later on. But also Hakari's like, I don't consider this a win because you never used your curse technique. And then Kashimo says, I can only use my curse technique once, and I want to use it on Sukuna. Hey, also guys, if you like my Jujutsu Kaisen content, please subscribe if you haven't already. It's fine if you don't want to, but if you just need a reminder, here you go. So that's super interesting because, these last couple weeks following this battle, we've been wondering, or at least I have, like, has Kashimo used his curse technique? Because at first I was under the assumption that he hasn't used it yet because it was never stated that he did. It was always talking about the electrical trait of his cursed energy, but never him using his curse technique. And then some of you were telling me like, no, dummy, he has been using his curse technique. Especially because in chapter 186, he straight up says, combining my trait and curse technique effect makes it difficult to defend with simple physical reinforcement through cursed energy. Now, either that was a translation mistake by Viz or a mistake on Gege's end, but either way, I don't really care. I'm not really that pedantic about things. I'm actually just glad that we haven't seen Kashimo's curse technique yet because, it gives more intrigue to the character and gives us something to look forward to, because I do think for sure he's going to fight Sukuna eventually. I mean, I think it's going to whittle down to everyone who's left in the Culling game fighting against him together. So at that point, we're going to see what Kashimo's curse technique is. And him saying that he can only use it once makes me wonder, like, so is that like once ever or just like once a day? I hope it's kind of just once a day because that would kind of be tragic if he can only use it like once. But then we see Panda, who has reverted to a child form, and this is because he was utterly decimated in his fight against Kashimo, like on the brink of death for sure, but I guess he was just able to regenerate back from that. And I don't know if we're going to see like normal Panda again in this arc. I'm not sure how fast his regeneration is, but first let's talk about the sponsor of this video, and that's Manga Mart. Guys, I know a lot of you are looking to purchase manga or just straight up start your collections, and sometimes you ask me, where can you get it? Well, this is it. Manga Mart is where you should be buying your manga. Manga Mart is a small family-owned and operated business. So by purchasing through them, not only are you supporting a small business, but you're also supporting the author and the artist that creates the manga as well. They ship to anywhere in the United States, and their packaging is recyclable and biodegradable, as they are committed to being the most environment-friendly retailer in the world. You can even buy titles that are sold out or back ordered everywhere and not have to worry about missing the reprint date since you've already placed an order with them. Also, custom orders can be placed for titles that you don't see on the store website. Just message them on social media. They add new titles daily. So guys, like I said, if you're looking to buy some manga, check out Manga Mart. The link is in the description, and make sure you use code Zhoniin at checkout and you'll get free shipping. Yep, that's right, free shipping. Thanks guys. But Hakari talking to Kashimo is like, let's make a deal. And Kashimo's like, but not for free. So I'm assuming this deal is like, hey, let's call this ceasefire. You can kind of be like my pseudo friend, but also I'm going to need you to use your points for me to make a rule change that I'm going to need eventually. And in exchange, I guarantee that you'll be able to fight Sukuna. And Hakari can make that deal because he knows that Yuji is Sukuna, so he can at least guarantee that he can get Kashimo in the realm of fighting him. Obviously, he can't like automatically summon Sukuna, but he can get him to where he is. And then Hakari's like, anyway, I got some place to go. And then we hear the Kogani saying, a player has added a rule to the Culling game. Rule 10, players may transfer a number of points of their choosing to another player. So that's really interesting, because I guess this is giving us insight into the timeline of things, because Rule 10 was made in chapter 167 by Higuruma himself after his fight with Yuji was over. So I guess this means that all of this stuff with Hakari and Kashimo and all of that has been happening congruently with Yuji and Higuruma's fight. But then we see Hakari coming back to Charles, that weird mangaka guy that he originally fought. And this is showing us that he didn't kill Charles, which, I guess we assumed he didn't. And, they have like this little buddy talk. So I guess this is like Charles's full face turn here, and he's going to be a part of Hakari's group, Panda and Kashimo going forward. But also I guess Momo's going to be a part of that group, because she's showing up here too, and we haven't seen her since I think chapter 152, after Maki had massacred the Zen clan. And she's like, let's just cut to the chase, did you get the points? And he's like, basically yeah. And I guess that means because Kashimo has the points and we made an agreement, and he'll make the rule change for us. And she says the plan calls for 4 new rules. First one is the points transfer, which has already been done. The second is allow the use of 100 points to create a substitute so individuals can withdraw from the Culling game. And then we see Sumiki here, which is the whole purpose for this rule being made in the first place, to get her out because she was put into the Culling game against her will by Kenjaku. And then the third rule is remove the communication blocks on the colonies so that they could call each other and talk, which they haven't done for a very long time, at least in our real time. And then the fourth one is allow going in and out of barriers. And then she says, but I want to postpone the third one, establishing communication between colonies. Maki can pass through the barriers. So this is awesome, totally understandable as well, because she doesn't have any cursed energy, so she's not bound by that. We also saw Toji do this. That's how he was able to get into Jujutsu High, like bypassing Tengen's barriers. And she also says cooperation with Mei's younger brother should solve the third rule. So that's interesting. I guess we're going to have to wait for more information to be revealed on this, because we don't fully understand Yui's curse technique yet, which I guess she's referring to here. It's implied to be some kind of like teleportation, because in chapter 133 we see Mei and Yui like suddenly appear in like Malaysia coming from Tokyo. And when Mei's on the phone in that chapter, she's like, yeah, Lumpur, Yui's curse technique. So I guess he can act as like some kind of intermediary for communication while he's on the outside of the barriers, possibly. I don't know, we'll see what happens with that. And then Akari asks, why can Maki pass through the barriers? And Momo's like, because she turned into a monster. And then we see Maki make her triumphant return, slaying some curse and having like this unhinged smile on her face, showing us how she's, altered coming out of that arc, not only on the power scale, but personality wise as well. And she just looks awesome here. I'm a big fan of the new Maki. She's definitely one of my favorite characters. And this look on her face might be, subtly letting us know that eventually this might turn sinister and she might have a heel turn. Same thing with Megumi. Like the 2 Zenins that are left might, become heels by the end of the story. I don't want to go too much into it now, but hopefully I can make a video about that theory eventually. But I also love Maki's dynamic in the Culling game and just in this arc in general, because she is so powerful now. She's like the new Toji, but also she's not bound by the Culling game. Like she kind of breaks it, because as we saw, she can pass in and out of the colonies because she doesn't have any cursed energy. But also like the main penalty of it, which is like cursed technique removal, which results in death, like if you don't have any points in like 19 days or something like that, that's not going to apply to her, because no cursed energy, no cursed technique. So she can just do whatever she wants, essentially. And on top of that, she's just a savage beast now with like awesome cursed tools. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how she just breaks this game, essentially. Also, her right eye is back. She basically lost it in the fight against her dad in chapter 148. So I guess since then, off panel, she's somehow got it back, either going through Shoko, her using reverse curse technique, or she met up with a Kotsu and he did the same, or there's a third option, or this is like a continuity error by Gege. Not saying it is, but sometimes mangas do that. But we also see that she's with Noritoshi, another character we haven't seen in a while, and he has a complete aesthetic change here. Looks way more contemporary, and I'm a fan of this opposed to his previous traditional Japanese look. And they're bonding here, showing that they're pretty relatable, both having major aesthetic dramatic changes, but also kind of being like the black sheep of their big clans that they come from. Maki obviously more so, but Noritoshi has it to some extent, enough to relate to her. And he says to Maki, you know, once you leave the barrier and join Yui, please jump to the next colony. And then Maki says, that person helped me out with some personal business too, but are you sure? Everyone knows the siblings are calculated. So the personal business, I guess it has something to do with her slaying the entire Zhoniin clan. Maybe they pulled some strings and made it seem less egregious to everyone else or something like that. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But then suddenly, like, they're alerted by something, and we see the Kogane announcing that a new player is entering the game, and it's like this worm-like cursed spirit, and he talks just like a human. So considering that, along with him getting the attention of Maki and Noritoshi, or I'm assuming he's getting their attention, this is probably a special grade and probably a pretty powerful one too. And since there's so much emphasis being placed on him, it's possible he might be pretty significant too. I mean, I'm assuming that if he is alerting them here, he's going to be their opponent, just to reestablish to us how powerful Maki is, and also to show us, you know, Noritoshi's fighting prowess again. Let me know what you think about this chapter in the comments, guys, and if you liked it, please give it a like, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.